This is a timber county, and it's got a long history, 150 years of history of logging.
The people that moved here in the 60s and 70s and started to get a feel for what was going on and saw what was happening to the forest, this was one of the first places they made a stand.
Industrial logging practices have been challenged by the local residents of Mendocino County for the past 30 years. In Albion, citizens have used a variety of tactics, including civil disobedience, lawsuits, and tree sitting to slow down the logging by Louisiana Pacific Corporation. LP has recently sold their land to a new owner called Mendocino Redwood Company.
Mendocino Redwood Company is owned by the Fisher family, the multi-billionaire family out of San Francisco that owns the Gap and Banana Republic, Old Navy clothing stores, and a lot of real estate too. So they invested some of their gains from their sweatshop labor up here and bought Louisiana Pacific land.
The Fishers of Gap, Inc. Bought 230,000 acres of cut-over redwood timberland from Louisiana Pacific, notorious rapacious loggers of the redwoods.
Louisiana Pacific basically converted the ecosystem into hardwoods and brush.
Not only are they making decisions that are biologically destroying the forest, they're not even making good business decisions. They're destroying the company. They're deliberately bankrupting the company.
It's sad, but everybody knew LP was cutting themselves out of business. I mean, and that's right. They just simply overlogged their lands so that there was very little merchantable timber left.
Now, why would they deliberately bankrupt their own company? Well, the reason for that is that LP is not a Mendocino County or a Redwood Region corporation. It's a worldwide corporation. And their plan, no matter what laws are passed in this building, Louisiana Pacific's plan is to strip every last tree, to scrape every little bit of biomass that they can off the dying earth, and then to pull out, cut and run. They're on the run side of cut and run. They're on their way out, and when they're done, they have a contract in Siberia to log the logs there.
It's currently undergoing its final liquidation, the last round of liquidation logging.
The timber company bought the timber gap, and they're trying to rip it off one more time.
With corporate logging, we're talking liquidation logging.
Right.
And once we deal with that, there is no sustainability, either for the, quote, resource, what we call trees, you know, the living life force, or for sustainability of jobs. I mean, people in this areas all over have been generational jobs. Now it's boom and it's going to be bust.
These corporations are getting the last profits out of these forests and wrecking the place, taking the last big trees.
Well, then half of Mendocino County went to some out-of-town slick in some Wall Street bunko tees. Now they have to figure out how to pay the interest on the trick. Well, you guessed it, that honor goes to the trees.
A lot of people are into denial about it. You know, they cannot admit that that's happening. We're losing endangered species, coho salmon, marble murrelet, spotted owl, one after the other are going onto the endangered species list.
They're taking out the last of the big trees. This means that they're destroying the biodiversity on these lands because you want a multi-storied canopy for the richest diversity.
Wherever you go around the world, you take out the trees, you take out the vegetation, it dries up and your water systems dries up. You're messing with the hydrological cycle of the planet.
It's the last significant run of wild coho anywhere on the Mendocino coast. Anywhere from 200 to 300 wild coho are still returning here, which is a pathetically small number, but it's much more significant than any other river. Some of the rivers do have a few more coho left, but they're hatchery fish. There's no hatchery fish here in Albion. They're still a wild run.
This area is very steep, erodible soils. They log on those steep, erodible areas. There's surface runoff all of the time, and these dirt in the stream impacts are very strong on the coho salmon. It puts fine sediment on top of the gravels, and they can't spawn.
All the salmon are freaking gone. How shall we respond to the chocolate Albion?
And the coho is part of an intricate old ancient forest system. You can't just have a little bit of trees in the stream zone, and the rest of the thing is clear-cut on the way to becoming desert, and have a coho salmon population. It's a very sensitive species.
We haven't lived long enough to see what devastation truly means in a redwood forest, because it's 400 years for a forest to rejuvenate.
We've also asked them to not spray herbicides, and they tell us it's not cost effective.
They are spraying Garlon, and they're clear cutting. They're basically carrying on LP's policy.
You know, the persistence rate of Garlon in 2,4-D is 3 months, and that's under prime conditions. And once that gets into water, it doesn't break down and continues to be a carcinogenic and poison. So that is getting into the well waters, springs, and who knows what it's doing to the salmon and other species.
One lady that I spoke to had many miscarriages, and she was raised around a forest which was constantly sprayed by herbicides.
This county has the 4th highest rate of death from cancer than of all the counties in California.
We all know, although it is very difficult to face, that the old forest and its creatures are nearly gone in Mendocino County, that the timber resource itself is nearly gone, and that we are fast approaching the point of no return.
Well, what happens to this forest land after they cut every single tree? Then what happens? Well, we really do know what happens. If we think about it, we can see it in Sonoma County, the miles and miles of vineyards that used to be redwood forests. And it's creeping up the pike. If you want to see your future, look to the south. Humboldt County, look at Mendocino, where there's no more trees. Mendocino, look at Sonoma.
They've made an announcement that they want to convert this former forest land to vineyards. It has no value as forest land anymore.
There's a very little-known law, what's called a certificate of compliance, and that says that while this was timberland, we abided by the timber rules, and then you can convert it to no longer be timberland.
I just say it out loud. I support the timber industry. And the reason for that drives me is because they keep the land in large ownerships.
They say you can never underestimate the wisdom of the state. Politicians with ambitions gone fishing.
And the problem is conversion of timberlands. The problem is gentrification. Because after the timberlands are gone, in come the wineries, and in come the subdivisions, and in come urban people with urban values, and soon this place doesn't even resemble what it used to be.
Our resource has been depleted. The reason they're cutting on these deep-seated landslides is because that's where the trees are.
That's all that's left.
And so the loggers get up at dawn. Gotta keep their own families strong. But the MRC will just cut and run. How shall we respond to the chocolate?
You know, I put your mind at ease that we're not here to make any trouble for anybody anymore if we have to or anything like that, you know. And I know people here are real peaceful and stuff. But
the whole idea is that there's something to protect down here.
Yeah. And you're worried about
the trees.
The trees.
people have put up a tree sit on what's called the J Road plan here in Albion. It's about 2.5 miles up the river, and it is defending a landslide area.
There's a picture of it right here, and the sit is right here, literally.
And so this is the tree sit here of an Albion, and it's connected to these two trees right here. So how are you feeling about this whole situation?
Stoked to be here. I'm really jazzed. We were talking about this morning how if Manzanita hadn't been up here, that these trees we're sitting in right now probably wouldn't be here. And it's a cool feeling.
Yeah. So how is it dealing with the trees falling?
It's intense. I can hear it and feel it like every time they hit.
Another one falls.
Kind of scary because, like, I know that the root system's really connected, and I'm sure these trees we're in can feel it too. I'm sure they can.
Yep.
It's pretty shaking.
Thundering boom.
Yeah.
One more.
So I was going through the process of letter writing, I was going to hearings, I got involved with an environmental activist organization and going through the channels and going through all the processes that are open to the general public, and I found out they were not working. Mostly it was the facts that got me, was what was going on with the timber harvest plans, and they were being filed like crazy, and they're stacking up the logs on the deck in Ukiah higher than LP ever did. And I said I had to do something different. And two of us decided to lock down with kryptonite bicycle U-locks around our necks to the Gap store on 6th Avenue and 34th Street in New York City. I felt we needed to let the Fisher family know and the rest of the world know that this is going on, and in order for people to listen, sometimes you have to do things to get attention.
The other part of the campaign is grassroots organizing out at the Gap stores with informational flyers in front of the Gaps. There's a new Gap store opens about every 48 hours on average. So there's plenty of targets. It's a target-rich environment, okay? So once you start to present the public with some simple information standing in front of a Nike town or a Gap, our current campaign, with a flyer saying, here's what the production conditions in the factories where your shoes or your shirt or your pants were made, here's what it's like for the human beings, usually teenage girls, working 70 hours a week, getting paid $1 a day.
Without overtime. We leave behind barbed wire barracks. Pregnancies not allowed.
These women are, and they're almost all women, are from China, Thailand, Bangladesh. They're forced to sign contracts where they pay to get the job, so they're thousands of dollars in debt when they start out, so you got a leash on them if they want to organize a union or cause trouble.
Donald Fisher, you made $8 billion profit from the sweat of the workers. So Donald Fisher, it's now time for you to get your dessert.
These companies are producing in Saipan in violation of U.S. overtime laws, U.S. labor laws, U.S. environmental laws, and yet the stuff is coming into the U.S. with a Made in USA label on it.
A new alliance between the environmental movement and the labor movement recently came together in Seattle to protest the World Trade Organization.
What we want is fair trade. We want those labor laws brought up to our standards in other countries, which includes their fair wages, a decent living, safety and health, environmental concerns. That's why that's our main issue here.
The organized violence against WTO protesters in Seattle was not unprecedented. In 1990, Judy Barry of Earth First was nearly killed when a pipe bomb was planted inside her car. Prior to the bombing, Judy had been successful organizing within both the environmental and the labor movements. 10 years later in Seattle, when these same movements came together to challenge the WTO, they were met with tear gas, rubber bullets, and pepper spray.
How does this connect to the WTO? The World Trade Organization is the supreme court of the global economy. It is the single most powerful legislative, executive, and enforcement body on the face of the earth. It's the big 800-pound gorilla. Every single case that the WTO has ruled on, they've ruled in favor of transnational corporations, against workers, the environment, species, small farmers, etc.
A day.
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
Without overtime.
Every summer, the trucks roll down the ridge, full of timber and thread. Truckers keeping up payments on the rigs. God knows the kids ain't overfed. When Judy Berry's car was bombed, the FBI just fumbles on. Are you with me, Brother John? How shall we respond to the chocolate Albion?
Now there's a gap in the forest where the trees used to be. There's a gap in the forest, ain't no salmon in the streams. There's a gap in the forest, herbicides upon the hills. There's a gap in the forest just to pay Don Fisher's bills.
Preserving wilderness is not the answer. If we want to put the earth first, we have to find a new way to live on the earth that doesn't destroy the earth. And because of that, Earth First is not just an environmental movement. Earth First is a social change movement.